For years, top-level tennis followed a familiar pattern: long rallies, physical exchanges, players testing who could last longer from the baseline. It was intense, demanding, and predictable in how matches unfolded. Then Roger Federer stepped onto the court, and without changing the rules of the game, he changed how the game was played. Suddenly, tennis wasn't just about endurance. It became about timing, precision, and seeing possibilities others didn't. He didn't overpower tennis, he reshaped it. Federer stepped onto the court with a style that seemed almost out of place in the modern era. Shorter points, earlier timing, effortless movement. Instead of forcing rallies, he redirected them. Instead of grinding, he created angles. The game looked faster, but he looked calmer. That contrast became his signature. If you watch his matches closely, the first thing you notice is not the shot making, it's the balance. Every movement appears measured, every strike seems prepared before the ball even arrives. This wasn't accidental. Federer built his game around precision and anticipation rather than reaction, allowing him to take time away from opponents without appearing rushed. That approach changed how players thought about control. Before Federer, baseline consistency dominated the conversation. After Federer, versatility became essential. He could attack, defend, serve aggressively, or slow the tempo, often within the same point. Grass, clay, hard court. It didn't matter. His game translated everywhere because it wasn't dependent on one physical advantage. It was built on timing, positioning, and decision-making. The numbers back up what the eye already suspected. 20 Grand Slam titles, 8 Wimbledon championships, over 300 weeks ranked world number 1. Those achievements placed him among the greatest competitors the sport has ever seen. But statistics alone don't explain why his influence reached beyond results. Federer didn't just win matches, he redefined efficiency. His service motion was compact and repeatable, allowing him to hold serve without exhausting energy. His forehand became one of the most precise attacking shots in tennis history, struck early and directed with accuracy rather than brute force. And his one-handed backhand, a shot many believed would disappear in the power era, became a symbol of adaptability instead of limitation. This technical clarity allowed Federer to shorten points, preserve stamina, and maintain longevity at the highest level. That longevity became one of the most remarkable aspects of his career. While many players experienced sharp physical decline, Federer continued competing deep into tournaments well into his late 30s, relying on economy of movement rather than physical strain. His style aged differently because it was never based solely on speed or strength, and yet his era was anything but easy. Federer's prime overlapped with two of the most relentless competitors tennis has ever produced: Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic. Their rivalries forced constant evolution. Against Nadal, Federer had to adapt to heavy topspin and extended rallies. Against Djokovic, he faced unmatched return consistency and defensive coverage. These weren't just matches, they were contrasts in philosophy: power, resilience, and precision meeting on the same stage. Those rivalries elevated the sport globally, drawing new audiences and redefining what sustained excellence looked like. But Federer's identity remained distinct. Even in physically demanding contests, he searched for solutions through creativity rather than resistance. He changed pace, took the ball earlier, approached the net when others stayed back. He made tactical variety relevant again in an era trending toward uniformity. This is where the idea of artistry truly began to attach itself to his name. Not because he played gently, he didn't, but because he played deliberately. Modern stars grew up studying Federer's footwork patterns, his ability to transition from defense to offense in a single step, and his willingness to attack space instead of simply reacting to pace. His influence can be traced in how the next generation values all-court adaptability rather than specialization. Federer didn't replace power tennis, he expanded what winning tennis could look like. And as his career progressed, that expansion became his legacy, a demonstration that mastery of timing, geometry, and composure could still dominate in an increasingly physical sport. By the time the tour fully entered the modern era of athletic intensity, Federer had already shown that efficiency could stand alongside endurance and that elegance could remain effective at the highest level. The sport had not slowed down, it had learned to move differently. As the game accelerated around him, Federer didn't resist the changes. He adapted to them without abandoning the principles that made him unique. That ability to evolve without losing identity became one of the defining traits of his career. Equipment changed, opponents became stronger, baseline exchanges grew heavier and more physical. Yet Federer continued to find ways to shorten space and redirect momentum. He adjusted racket technology, refined his backhand to handle higher bouncing shots, and incorporated more aggressive positioning to counter the new generation's pace. These were not dramatic reinventions, they were calculated refinements, small adjustments that allowed him to remain competitive against players nearly a decade younger. That willingness to evolve extended his relevance far beyond what most careers allow. Longevity in tennis is often measured in survival. Federer's was measured in sustained excellence. Deep tournament runs, efficient match management, and consistent decision-making allowed him to compete at an elite level long after many contemporaries had retired. His approach demonstrated that career length could be influenced not only by conditioning, but by how intelligently a player constructed points and managed energy. This is where his influence began to shift from performance to philosophy. Federer showed that success did not require choosing between offense and defense. He blended them. He showed that variety was not decorative, it was practical. Changing rhythm, altering spin, approaching the net, or taking time away from opponents were not stylistic flourishes. They were solutions to the increasing physicality of the sport. You can see traces of that thinking in how modern players build their games. The newest generation studies patterns, transition play, and court positioning with a level of detail that reflects Federer's example. Young champions have spoken about watching his matches not only to admire them, but to understand timing, balance, and adaptability under pressure. His style became a reference point for how to construct a complete player rather than a specialized one. And that completeness reshaped expectations. Fans began to value anticipation as much as power. Coaches emphasized movement efficiency alongside strength. The idea of an all-court game, once considered fading, regained importance because Federer proved it could still succeed at the highest level. His presence bridged eras, connecting classical shot-making with modern athletic demands. Even his impact beyond the baseline carried weight. Federer's composure, consistency, and global popularity helped expand tennis into new markets and audiences, strengthening the sport's international identity. He became not just a champion, but a recognizable ambassador for tennis itself, drawing attention that extended far beyond tournament results. Yet the most lasting part of his legacy may not be tied to trophies or records. It's the change in perception he created. Before Federer, greatness was often described through dominance alone. After Federer, greatness included fluidity, intelligence, and efficiency. The conversation around tennis began to include how the game was played, not just whether it was won. That shift is why his matches are still revisited, studied, and remembered differently. They offer examples of problem-solving under pressure, of using positioning instead of force, and of maintaining clarity in moments where chaos is expected. Federer didn't slow the sport down, he revealed another way to keep up with it. As tennis continues to evolve, becoming faster and more demanding, the imprint of his approach remains visible, in the emphasis on versatility, in the value placed on transition play, and in the understanding that mastery can come from precision as much as power. That is the Federer effect. Not simply a collection of victories, but a redefinition of what complete tennis could be.